Okay, let's go.
Across 5 decades, the name of Gerry Anderson promised excitement and adventure for generations of viewers, young and old.
That's quite a statement.
I'm ready to back it up with action.
From breathtaking intergalactic exploits
The moon is going out of the Earth's orbit.
to daring last-minute rescues,
We're not gonna make it. We're running out of runway.
his television shows and feature films were among the most exciting and innovative of their day.
And that's how it's gonna be. Always.
And, nearly 20 years after his final production, they remain as popular as ever.
I'm glad to hear it. Go on.
Born on April 14th, 1929, Gerry Anderson developed an interest in the film world at an early age.
We are going for a take.
After winning a post-war traineeship with the British Colonial Film Unit before moving on to Gainsborough Pictures, the young Anderson learned the craft of film editing.
Before you know it, you'll be filming in Hollywood.
After his National Service days, Anderson resumed his career as a film editor before joining Polytechnic Films in the mid-1950s as a director.
Action!
And, when Polytechnic collapsed, he was 1/5 of the team that made up a new company, Pentagon Films. Among Anderson's directorial duties during his years at Polytechnic and Pentagon were episodes of The New Adventures of Martin Kane, the light-hearted documentary series You've Never Seen This, and a Kellogg's Ricicles commercial featuring the puppet character Noddy. This commercial brought Pentagon to the attention of author Roberta Lee, who was then searching for a production company to film a series of scripts she had written for children, titled The Adventures of Twizzle.
Have you heard of a Twizzle toy?
When Anderson left Pentagon to co-found AP Films with Arthur Provis, they took up the challenge of producing the 52 episodes of Twizzle.
We'll have to be friends and stay together all the time. That's a good idea.
Twizzle was followed by another Roberta Lee penned series,
Torchy the battery boy.
which continued the theme of toys coming to life, this time in order to sing songs and teach children a lesson.
I've brought you twins, and I want you to teach them how to behave.
What fun! I'll put them in the dungeon.
The series also showed that the AP Films team were beginning to refine their puppetry technique and improve the scope of their filmmaking, reflecting Anderson's desire to produce the very best work possible, no matter what age range it was intended for.
I'm sure they've got a secret, and they're not going to tell me what it is.
A second series of Torchy soon entered production, but by this time Anderson and many of his team had chosen to part company with Roberta Lee and headed to Slough to produce their own series, the puppet western Four Feather Falls.
Howdy, folks.
The series was a success when first shown on Granada Television in 1960, but when the network didn't order any more episodes, AP Films found themselves potentially facing disaster.
Gee, I'm sorry about that.
Kept afloat during this time by several television commercials and the low-budget B-movie caper Crossroads to Crime, APF's salvation came in the form of ATV head Lou Grade, who agreed to bankroll the company to produce another family puppet series. This time, the show's initial concept was devised by Anderson himself. The new series featured the first of many star vehicles for which Gerry and his new wife Sylvia would soon become known, with the revolutionary supercar capable of travelling on land, in the air, underwater, and even into space.
That's supercar.
Supercar itself also served a more practical purpose, as it allowed the puppets to travel from A to B without relying on showing them walking.
My feet!
The series featured a memorable cast of characters, including the first of many heroic pilot characters inspired by Gerry's older brother Lionel, who had been killed while serving in the RAF in 1944.
Boy, it hardly bears thinking of.
Supercar's second season also finally gave a name to these sophisticated lip-sync techniques that had been used for certain puppet characters on Torchy and then used throughout Four Feather Falls, Super Marionation.
Most satisfactory.
Supercar was a big hit on both sides of the Atlantic, but APF's next series would be their first to air on an American network.
Okay, Venus?
Okay, Steve.
Right. Let's go.
This was 1962's Fireball XL5, which relocated the action to 100 years in the future aboard the pride of the World Space Patrol. Fireball XL5 and her crew would travel the universe, assisting those in need and protecting the Earth from evil forces.
Well, all I know is that somewhere out there there's a living creature in distress, and I can't let that call go unanswered.
The series cemented APF as a producer of science fiction television.
Stand by for action.
The Andersons' next show was their first to be filmed in colour.
We are about to launch Stingray.
Stingray shifted the focus from outer space to underwater, and to the exploits of the crew of the World Aquanaut Security Patrol's most advanced submarine, Stingray.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Throughout XL5 and Stingray, the AP Films team continued to refine their techniques. Their puppets gradually became less crude-looking, and the special effects advanced to the point where they were easily the best yet seen on British television.
Just look at that.
However, it was their next series that would prove to be their most successful and most enduring.
Thunderbirds are go.
Thunderbirds launched on British television in September 1965 and was an instant hit with children and adults alike.
Boys, I think we're in business.
The series presented spectacular thrills with the heroic adventures of the International Rescue Team and their fleet of high-tech rescue vehicles.
If only I knew the secrets.
The show's longer running time allowed for a focus on character development, as well as impressive action scenes to rival many big-screen feature films. So impressive were the show's visuals that it only made sense for the series to make the jump to the cinema screen, as it did in 1966's
Thunderbirds are go.
The movie was a superb technical achievement, and after a packed premiere event in December 1966, hopes were running high that the movie would be a success to rival even the 007 movies.
You're joking.
However, with plenty of Thunderbirds to watch on television, the public had other ideas, and the film was a box office failure, one that heralded the end of any more Thunderbirds adventures on television.
It's unlikely that you'll be needed, but you better be ready in case.
International Rescue did, however, return for a second big screen outing in 1968, with
Thunderbirds 6.
but to even lower box office returns.
Why?
The Andersons' final feature film, the live-action sci-fi thriller Doppelganger, more commonly known today by its American title of Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, was released in 1969, but was also a critical and commercial failure.
Once again, nothing to report.
Although Thunderbirds had come to an end, Supermarionation continued on the small screen for several more years and several more series.
Captain Scarlet? Yes, sir.
These included 1967's Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, featuring a war of nerves between the Earth security organization Spectrum and the alien Mysterons on Mars.
It will mean the ultimate destruction of life on Earth.
1968's Joe 90, featuring the adventures of a 9-year-old super spy.
He's Wynn's most special agent.
And finally, 1969's The Secret Service, a bizarre hybrid of Supermarionation and live action, starring comic actor Stanley Unwin as a parish priest who carried out missions for British intelligence with the aid of a shrinking ray and some gibberish.
All rotating mouse.
Rotating Rose?
Yes, that's the rotating engine bolt.
Baffled by the Secret Service, and faced with the rising costs of producing a Supermarionation series, Grade decided to cancel the series and instead commission the Andersons to produce their first fully live-action television series,
UFO.
First airing in 1970, UFO told the story of a secretive global organization named Shadow, tasked with protecting the Earth from visits by alien spacecraft, whose occupants were intent on harvesting human organs to keep their own failing bodies alive.
We must come to Earth to survive.
UFO was followed up in 1972 by the Andersons' first and only contemporary thriller series, The Protectors, starring Robert Vaughn and Nairi Dawn Porter.
Why us?
Because we're detectives, because we find people, because we know what mistakes they make, and because we know what not to do.
The series featured the adventures of an international detective organization and showcased extensive location filming around the UK and Europe.
You phoned me off.
During production of the second season of The Protectors, UFO was climbing high in the American ratings, and the decision was made to commission a second season of the show.
Great. I'll be right there.
With the old format revamped to move the action from 1980 to 1999, and mostly set on a greatly expanded Shadow Moonbase.
Result negative.
However, when UFO's ratings in America began to show signs of decline, ITC pulled the plug on what Anderson and his colleagues were calling UFO 2. This, along with the collapse of a third season of The Protectors, left the Andersons' new company, Group 3 Productions, potentially out of work, until Anderson hit upon the idea of retooling the UFO 2 concept into a brand new sci-fi series. Space 1999 first aired in 1975 and told the story of the personnel of Moonbase Alpha, who find themselves unexpectedly taking a terrifying voyage into the unknown when a nuclear disaster hurls the moon out of Earth orbit and off into deep space.
A return to Earth is out of the question. Our priorities are survival and the search for an alternative place to live.
The series featured glossy visuals reflecting its high budget and an array of big-name guest stars.
We have learned that we still have much to learn.
However, the show's first season saw the end of the Andersons' professional and personal association, with an argument following the show's wrap party in March 1975, seeing the couple separate. They would finally divorce in 1980.
We'll determine our own destinies.
A second season of Space 1999 saw a massive revamp of the show, with many familiar characters and settings jettisoned without explanation.
It's mandatory.
In came a new producer and a trio of new regular characters, including the shape-shifting alien Maya, and a greater focus on action, character, and humour. But the show was not renewed for a third year.
They didn't make it, Helena.
Space 1999 was to be the final series produced for ITC by Anderson, who saw his career and personal life enter a decline in the late 1970s.
It is all part of my most devious plan.
As the 1980s dawned though, a meeting with businessman Christopher Burr gave Anderson a chance to relaunch his career and his association with puppets with 1983's
Terrahawks, stay on this channel. This is an emergency.
The first new Anderson puppet series for over 10 years, featuring a global defense organization defending the Earth against Martian aggressors, introduced a host of memorable new characters, most notably the witch-like android Zelda.
What did you say?
And featured an increasingly comedic tone over the course of its run.
I told that nice sheriff fool I'd be passing bad water in the morning.
Yeah, well, you really should try coffee, Mum.
The series was brought to life by a team of old hands from the Supermarionation days, plus new recruits to the Anderson world. Amongst these new recruits was Terry Adlam, who provided the concept and character for Anderson's next series, the 1987 stop-motion detective comedy Dick Spanner.
Remember that one?
Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Anderson had produced several pilot films that, for one reason or another, had not been picked up for a series.
I guess anything's possible.
These included 1973's ill-fated Supermarionation revival The Investigator,
activating photon drive,
1975's educational sci-fi special The Day After Tomorrow,
This is the Space Police,
and 1986's Space Police. This Hill Street Blues in Space concept was one that Anderson was particularly keen to see realised, and over the next few years he would continue to refine the concept and the presentation still further.
Now on to The Heroes of International Rescue return in the futuristic puppet series of the 60s, Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds returned to British television in 1991 for a highly successful repeat run on BBC Two, which helped kickstart a resurgence of public interest in the Anderson properties, and put Anderson in a better position than he had been in decades to get shows commissioned.
Well, that's good. Kinda makes the job worthwhile.
An animated sci-fi series, GFI, was abandoned in 1992 due to quality issues after a single unbroadcast episode, but in 1994, Anderson's Space Police concept finally entered production as Space Precinct.
About time!
Set in and around Demeter City on the distant planet Altor, the series starred Ted Shackelford as a human police officer newly arrived in the precinct and getting to know his new colleagues and new adversaries, both human and alien.
I love this job.
The series was well received by some, but, much like Anderson's previous live-action sci-fi productions, Space Precinct struggled to find both a consistent tone and consistent time slots.
Well, as one would say, lovely.
Soon after Space Precinct wrapped, Anderson was hard at work producing a stop-motion animated children's fantasy series based on a concept by artist Rodney Matthews.
Lavender Castle.
And, as the real Century 21 approached, plans were afoot to bring back one of his classic shows for a modern audience.
Which one could it be?
One man fate has made indestructible.
Captain Scarlet had long been one of the jewels of the Anderson crown, as demonstrated by a hugely successful repeat run in 1993. And in the year 2000, a new short episode, Captain Scarlet and the Return of the Mysterons, was produced to explore the viability of continuing the series in CGI form.
And this is just the beginning.
Encouraged by the results, and by yet another successful repeat run of the original series in 2001, a complete reimagining of the Captain Scarlet concept entered production at Pinewood Studios in 2004, airing on ITV the following year as Gerry Anderson's new Captain Scarlet.
I'd forgotten how incredible it was.
The series was to be the last that Anderson would produce.
It's time to be on my way.
Although he continued to develop new projects for the next few years, and was ever hopeful of helming a revival of Thunderbirds, the onset of Alzheimer's disease brought his career to an end, and he died in his sleep on December 26, 2012.
Your odyssey shall know no end.
Today, Anderson's works are available to enjoy on DVD, Blu-ray and streaming services around the world.
Oh, that is good news.
Repeat runs, fan clubs and online communities have kept the spirit of the original shows alive, while generations of filmmakers have been inspired to continue the arts of both supermarionation and practical effects.
A combination of the old and the new.
For more than a decade, Anderson Entertainment has been among those keeping the flame alive, bringing to life unrealized projects and telling new stories for classic shows.
What more could you ask for?
Appreciation of Anderson's shows crosses generations and spans the world.
Right across the universe.
Yet their story is not his alone.
It's a point worth remembering.
The shows that carry his name are also a testament to the hard work of countless other artists and creatives across the decades, all working at the peak of their powers to produce something truly special.
And that is?
Whole worlds of action and adventure, populated by great characters and brought to life by engaging storytelling, the likes of which we may never see again.
I only hope that somehow my words will reach those gallant people.
The story of Gerry Anderson is also the story of all those who joined him on that journey, both in front of and behind the camera. Their names also loom large on the credits of the shows and in the hearts and memories of fans.
I couldn't do better myself.
And their work, and his, will live forever.